Welcome back, everybody. We are going to be going into the next part of trig that we've got in this unit. Now, we've been solving for the sides of these triangles using trigonometry, using sine, cosine, or tangent so far. But as long as you have 2 out of the 3 pieces of information that you're looking for, then you can solve for anything using trig. So notice we've got angle, one side, one side. As long as you are given 2 out of those 3 measurements, so numbers for 2 out of those 3, you can solve for whatever you're looking for in triangles for sine, cosine, or tangent. Now, we're going to be using the inverse trig functions today. The only thing you need to know about the inverse trig function is it's another button we're hitting on the calculator. It's actually the same button. We're just going to hit shift and then hit it. And it's going to look a little different, but either way, it's not something that is another mathematical program that you need to know or equation that you need to know. Just understand it's the inverse function. The calculator will take care of it. You just got to make sure you give it the right information. Now, we will end up getting a lot of errors with our calculators if we've got numbers that are set up incorrectly. Like we talked about, sine and cosine are always going to be fractions that are less than 1. If you do the inverse sine or cosine with a fraction greater than 1, it's going to give you an error. So just understand if you get those errors, that's probably the first place I would look. Now, if we take a look at these example problems here, notice now we are given the angle as the x. So that's the one we don't know. When we're solving these problems, the only thing we need to do is figure out what are these 2 sides in relation to this angle right here. Now, if we notice, the 24 is the hypotenuse. Remember, that never changes. So we always want to find that first and see if that's one of our sides. So we go across from the right angle, it is. So we have to use sine or cosine because we have the hypotenuse. Now, the 15 is opposite the x. So we have the opposite in the hypotenuse, the O and the H. So it'll be the SO of SOHCAHTOA, meaning we are going to use sine of x to set up this problem. Now, the only thing we need to do is set up the fraction, and then notice there's one step. We just do that, the inverse sign of that fraction. There's no multiplying, there's no switching a fraction around. We just have to make sure that we are picking the right function to do. Now, what I'm going to do is show you the graphing calculator that we talked about on NumWorks. Remember, I'm not going to go into how to find that one again. You can go back to one of those older videos that we've got. But going to, and let's make sure we go to the right one. That one, there we go. We talked about how this is the inverse sine of 15 over 24. Now, doing that, let's move this up here so we can see that. Actually, I'm going to resize this, make it a little smaller so we can see the buttons that we're pushing as well. So notice over here, we've got the inverse sine. Well, if we hit sine, notice it gives us that again. It gives us that same one that we've already had. We don't want that. We want to get the inverse sine. So what we need to do is we need to hit the shift key, which is in the top left right here. We'll hit shift, and notice now we see shift in the top right of our screen right there. And I'll pull that down. You can see the shift in the top right. Now we're going to hit the sine button, but we've hit shift. So notice what's going to happen is it is a sine. Now, if you have a graphing calculator of your own that is not this, it may say sine to the -1. They're the same thing. We're not worried about that right now. And then we'll just put in 15 divided by 24 and hit equals. Notice we get 38.68. And should I say, notice we get 38.68. Let's get CoChart up here in the top corner. We get 38.68, which when we switch back over to our answers that we've got, I hope when we switch over. Give it just a sec. There it is. When we switch back over, we're going to notice 38.7 at 38.68 rounded up is going to be what we have as our answer there for 38.7. Now, sine, cosine, and tangent, it's all the same thing. You hit that shift key and then sine, cosine, or tangent, and it'll give you the same exact setup. So just seeing here, the inverse cosine of 8 over 11, we'll switch back over to our graphing calculator. We just hit the same thing. Shift, cosine, 8 divided by 11. And we get 43.34. And if we switch back over to what we've got, you notice 43.3 is what we get there. So let's take a look at the Khan Academy assignment that we've got for today, and then that'll be it. As we'll get some more practice with this as well in IXL tomorrow, I will tell you that. But we'll make sure that we can take a look at the Khan Academy and go a little bit slower with that today. So notice here tomorrow at 8:30, solve for an angle in the right triangle. Again, we've got videos and articles there if you so desire. So when we take a look at what we've got, we're waiting for our good little problem to show up for us. So we'll scroll down here. We see we're finding angle B. And now notice here, let's make sure we can see everything for you guys. There we go. Trying to find angle B. Now, angle B, see if we've got, oh, we do have that. Perfect. Angle B, we've got the hypotenuse right here, 9. And this 5 is the side that is adjacent. So we have the A and the H, so we have to do the cosine here. Now, since it's the cosine of 5 over 9, remember we're going to use the inverse cosine. So we're going to hit inverse cosine, and we get A cos as well. 5 divided by 9. And apparently we need to close out our parentheses there. Make sure we are in degrees mode. We are in degrees. So we get 56.251. We're going to the nearest hundredth. So that's the second decimal place. So 56.25 for that one. Takes us to the next one that we've got here. Notice now the hypotenuse is the one that we don't have. So right away, when it's the hypotenuse that we do not have, this must be tangent that we are going to be solving for. So since tangent is opposite over adjacent, it would be 5 over 2 that we're putting into this inverse tan. Now, 5 over 2. And again, we get 68.198. So that's going to be 68.20. Now, I do want to show you if you just hit tan instead and do 5 over 2, notice the answers we get are decimals. If you are getting decimals like this, decimals that are less than 1, you are not putting in the inverse tangent. You're putting in the tangent. It has to be the inverse of these functions for this to work. And then we get to here, the hypotenuse we're given. Notice the 5 is opposite. So with that being said, we have opposite over hypotenuse. So that is going to be the sine. So this will be the inverse sine of 5 over 8. Close out our parentheses. We get 38.682 or 38.68. And then the last one that we've got for today, we see here we have the hypotenuse and the side that is adjacent. So this is going to be a cosine. So inverse cosine of 4 over 5. 36.869, so that'll be 36.87 since the 9 tells the 6 to round up. And that'll be it for... So, great job. We have got 330 more energy points. How about that? Always good to get those energy points. Don't know what they're used for, but we'll find out one day. With that being said, that is finding angles in triangles using trigonometric ratios. Make sure you get the Khan Academy done, and I will tell you, we will be doing an IXL on this, and for those of you that are watching these, definitely are keeping track of the view counts on these. But for those of you that are watching it, I'll show you the next one, or what you are going to be doing in IXL. We will be going to geometry, trigonometry down in the R's, and finding an angle measure R9 for that one. So that is it for today. Have a great day. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Make sure to watch the press conference at 11 to see if there are going to be any changes to when we go back to school.